2NURFM.com, a broadcast service of the University of Newcastle.
Carolyn Scott has slipped into the studio. Joining us, Carolyn is, of course, the extraordinary baker from Artisan Bakery, the Blackbird Artisan Bakery, located at Maitland Jail. Carolyn, is it okay that you've had a little bit of time off to come in and talk to me about Christmas lunch, or should you be knee-deep in dough?
No, it's just a pleasure to be away.
Get away from all the bread baking. Carolyn, just before we talk about Christmas lunch, I want to talk a little bit about you, because you are an incredible asset to our region. You've got this vast knowledge of food, and it's not just bread. But you did discover that if you make bread a certain way, it can be not as problematic digestively as what a lot of people believe. And that's the thing that's revolutionised my life with you. You know, I thought, I'll never be able to eat bread, but your bread is terrific.
Absolutely, because it's made traditionally, it's made properly. The gluten is allowed to ripen and metabolise, so it doesn't make you sick. So I think my rule of thumb with my bread is it's low GI, it's low fat, it's gut friendly, and it's absolutely delicious.
It is very much so. Now, what are we doing for Christmas Day? How are we going to start this menu?
Okay, Christmas Day. Christmas Day for me, I go to the very end of Christmas Eve. I bake for probably about 100 people. I sit at 100 people's Christmas Day. I roast ducks, I bake beef, I bake turkeys. We have bread orders that have been in place for 3 weeks. We have dessert orders, etc. Some very quirky, funny ones. We do salads, we do all kinds of things. We've already done Christmas Day for a few families.
Wow, okay.
So my Christmas Day, it's simple.
I was going to say, can you be bothered actually doing anything?
Absolutely. You've got to eat good food and you've got to enjoy the celebration of a shared table. So my Christmas Day, there's about 30 of us sit down. Everybody has a job. The menu's decided months out and it doesn't change from year to year. Everyone has a job and it all comes together really nicely and no one has to do a really long, hard day. So I think the summers, we're in Australia, it's, you know, you have a few muggy Christmas days, but quite often it's hot. So you look at our bounty and you look at what is fresh and beautiful, clean, healthy flavours. Then you can afford to have a little flinger at the end with something that's nice and indulgent. So we make gravid lax. Gravid lax means to bury. So it was a way of preserving fish in Sweden and Finland and Norway and so on. It would be packed in salt and sugar and some spices, some dill, and it would be laid in a very cold place. And the salt and sugar and the dill and probably some alcohol would actually alter the enzymes in the meat. It would change the proteins and it would, in theory, cook the meat. So you end up with this fantastic fish that's a fresh, delicate flavour that has simply been cured overnight. So my recipe, all my recipes will go up on the website. I have a fennel vodka. So I buy a bottle of vodka and I stuff it full of fennel and I keep it in my freezer. And when the vodka runs down, then I simply top it up and put it back into there. And I always use that for curing. So ocean trout, Tasmanian ocean trout is fabulous.
So hang on, the fennel is infused into the vodka.
Absolutely.
So when you use the vodka on the fish, it has that beautiful aniseed, fennelly flavour. Okay, I'm following on.
Yep. So gravid lax, fennel vodka and fresh dill of ocean trout. And I would simply serve that on a shaved cucumber salad or rocket. And make it simple. A good olive oil, a little bit of Murray River salt, and that's it. That's all you need.
Beautiful.
Your first course is done with some blackbird bread. Our main, I'm not allowed to take this off the menu. This is my children's favourite dish, and it's almost like an heirloom recipe. It's our family recipe. We do a double cooked duck. As you know, our family farm grows ducks and quail and partridge for the restaurant industry.
The Redgate farm, yes.
Yes, that's correct. And so double cooked duck, and you simply do it with some rosemary and salt, and it's sensational. It's not fatty. What you're doing is you boil your duck to start with. And
so that takes a lot of the fat out, I should imagine.
No, it doesn't take it out. It mobilises it. So what you're doing is when you put it into the oven, you've got hot fat, the pores are open, it's ready to move. So you put it onto a rack. The fat drains away. I have guests who will run their bread through the fat and think it's fantastic. I've got others who will run 1,000,000 miles. It's up to you. You can actually save that filtered fat and you can put it into the freezer in ice cube trays and you can use it to do potatoes and so on if you want to.
Well, I wanted to ask you that because Kimmy, our wonderful Kimmy, who's been managing our promotion promotions. She's been saying to me for weeks, I've got my duck fat, I'm ready for the potatoes. So I was actually going to attempt to do potatoes in duck fat this year, but you can use the fat from the roasting duck.
Well, that's exactly what I do. I've always got some fat in my cold room sitting waiting to use for that very reason. I find the double cooked duck isn't greasy. It's not oily at all. You've got crisp skin sitting on beautiful meat. The fat has lubricated the meat as it's drained away. All that subcutaneous fat that the ducks need to insulate them when they're swimming is at the bottom of the pan for you to decide how you treat that. And it's as simple as having some potatoes and a good chutney, and you've got a fantastic meal.
So just to recap quickly, you boil the duck for how long? I know we'll put the recipes up, but just roughly how long?
I boil it for 10 minutes. It's like cooking pasta. You have a big pot of water on the stove to boil. When you've got a good rolling boil, you put your duck in and you set a timer for 10 minutes of boiling time. That's the perfect cup of tea time, let me tell you. I've done this many times. So I make my cup of tea and I drink my cup of tea and I come back. I use a knife steel because it goes into the cavity of the duck and I can lift up and drain in one go.
Yes.
And I simply take the duck from the pot where it's drained straight across to my roasting rack and then into an oven ready to go at 180 degrees.
Wonderful. We're chatting with Carolyn Scott this morning. Carolyn is bringing us her Christmas Day recipes. Of course, she's the baker at Blackbird Artisan Bakery at Maitland Jail, and she's sharing some of her long-held family recipes. So I feel a bit honoured, actually, Catherine, because it's Carolyn, because you've held these dear to your heart over the years and I've managed to coax them out of you. But when you roast the duck, do you rub anything on the top of it to keep it moist?
We use Murray River salt and we use rosemary.
Beautiful.
Rosemary and sage, Szechuan spices. I think the recipe I will give you is my Szechuan spices, and it actually has the recipe for making up your spices.
Oh, yummy.
It's beautiful. It's so lovely. And you simply, cut some citrus up and put it into the cavity. Salt the skin and put some herbs on, and that's it. You cook it. That's it, on a rack.
Carolyn Scott, thank you so much for coming in today and sharing your family recipes and your knowledge. And I think we might make a bit of a regular thing of this. Maybe once a season you might pop in and say, well, this is what's in season and this is what you can do with it. Would you be up for that?
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Oh, we'd love to hear from you because you well and truly are an expert. Thank you so much for your time. Have a fabbo Christmas. I hope that you do get to have a little rest because as a baker, what time do you get up in the morning, Carolyn?
Oh, it varies enormously, but usually it's a 4 a.m. start.
4 a.m. Todd Sargent on our breakfast show, when he was a little boy, he wanted to be a baker. But you know why he didn't become a baker, Carolyn?
The early mornings.
He didn't want to get up early, and now he gets up at 3 o'clock and comes to radio.
Yeah. It's all relative.
It is. Good on you and happy Christmas.
Thank you, and the same to you and your listeners.
2NURFM.